had to happen at some point. What's up, guys? It's Lord, and this is a pretty sad video, to be honest. Boo-hoo. It seems that the game theorists, MatPat specifically, released their final FNAF theory before MatPat retires. This is honestly sad to see, because, like, I've been a fan since Help Wanted, so, like, around that time. A little after, so maybe, like, mid-2019, and since I became a FNAF fan, and I wanted to know about the lore, like, obviously, like any other person, Game Theory was the first one I watched, and he's the only theorist I watched for years. I can admit that some of his recent theories are hit or miss. Like, either they are pretty mid, like his recent one on the FNAF movie, if you know, you know, or like his Hope Wanted 2 one, his Ruin ones. Those were actually decent theories. Like, I actually think those were good. And especially his older theories. Like, I would argue from FNAF 1 through FNAF Ultimate Custom Night, his theories were flawless. Very good theories. And it's sad to see that this is the last one. I saw a few people notice this on Twitter, but this thumbnail, see you later, is actually like the exact same thumbnail as his first FNAF theory. It's a really close-up shot of Freddy, and the text is in the same thing. It's like, I think it's Five Nights Truth, I think it says. I don't know, it's something truth. And it's in the same style. And so it really sucks to see it happen like this. I was gonna watch this, but then I was like, you know, no, I'm reacting to this. It was really inevitable. Like, since I saw the announcement about a couple months ago at this point, I was like, oh, he's gotta have one more FNAF 3 up his sleeve. So, yeah, it sucks. I'm gonna watch this though, kind of as a tribute, because MatPat is a great dude. Now, a lot of people think that MatPat is game theory, and he sort of is, but like after this, there's still gonna be theories, and I'm sure there's still gonna be FNAF theories. It's just that it's gonna be by Tom, and by what I've seen from Tom on GT Live, he's cool. You know, he's cool, and I think that he will continue to make great theories. I'm going to this with an open mind. Let's go. 3, 2. Oh my God! It's the official FNAF lore book. 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, loyal theorists, this is it. This will be my final FNAF theory. And this time, I mean it.
Oh my God, yeah. Is it gonna be the FNAF one? Yes! Let's go! Oh, it's new! Oh, it's a new one.
The end is nearly at hand. The pieces are in place for you. You missed it last week. Look for the green. And remember everything I taught you. Remember, dates are important. Remember the... Hurry, time is running out.
God! That's new. I've never seen that. I've watched all his FNAF theories. I thought it was gonna be like the classic one from like FNAF 2 and 3, you know? With like the puppet and the purple guy and the sliding across. I thought that was what it was gonna be. But it's new, and I like it.
Hello, Internet!
Hello, Internet!
Game Theory, the show that, by my count, has had no less than 10 final FNAF theories. At this point, it's practically become its own...
The entire timeline.
This time, it's no joke. After 66 theories, 3 live talkbacks, and 1 bangin' remix...
Exotic photos.
I've never heard something so fire in my life.
Bangin' remixes... Today, I end my coverage of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Nah, that's crazy.
There's only one final game theory, and then the curtain closes on my time as host, and Tom will have to step into the spotlight. Hope you're ready for the challenge there, Tom. Tom?
Toy Bunny, Easter Bunny, Chocolate Bunny, Melted Chocolate Bunny, Withered Bunny,
It's the theory
Bunny,
music.
Rockstar
I know this
Bunny,
music.
Glam Rock Bunny, Sunken Toy Bunny, Bonbon, Just Bon, System Error Bunny, Nightmare Bunny.
Well done, but how many toes does he have?
2, no, 3, 5?
Again. The first step of FNAF theorizing. Slowly
The first
losing your
step.
mind. I think he's gonna do just fine. You know,
I've been doing some FNAF theorizing, and I haven't done that. So I don't know if I'm officially a FNAF theorist.
I did consider making my final theory about FNAF, but I actually have something really special planned for that one. So special, in fact, that we're going to be doing a premiere for it on this channel next Saturday, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We're going to have some fun. You guys will be able to chat with me live as that video releases. And who knows, there might even be some secrets to find. And most importantly of all, I get to say my final goodbye and thank you to all of you for the last 13 years.
So is his last theory going to be FNAF?
What?
So that's next week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Make Make sure
we'll
you
be
subscribe
there.
so you're
I
notified
hope.
when that one goes live.
Hope I'll be
Speaking of
there.
March 9th, just a quick reminder that that's also the final day of sales for my YouTube.
Let's go.
Once
I saw
retire
this
as host on the
YouTube's
night,
line.
I'll
It's super
YouTube
dope.
Retire and be gone forever. So if you do want this little piece of game theory history, or your own little psychic friend Fredbear, head on over to youtubes.com or
I love the
click link in
whiteboard.
description to grab your MatPat figurine and FNAF pins before they're nothing but a distant memory. Kind of like Dream Theory, but enough
Dream Theory?
housekeeping.
Oh, no, I didn't go away. FNAF
And let me
movie
tell
went crazy.
you, I've spent a long time thinking about this one. How do you end a series like this?
I
Should
don't
just
know.
do a normal theory about some minute detail? Doesn't really feel final, Plus, I'd probably end up calling someone a robot, and then a bunch of people would get mad at me again. Should I
Oh,
the ultimate
did you see Twitter?
timeline as one final here's the lore? Well, that would certainly be big, but it also just
I thought that he would just make one huge video. Like, okay, these aren't exactly complete theories, but it's something for y'all to like take a little bite of 87. Now here you go. He's a robot. He's a robot. These are incomplete. Y'all can complete them. These are literally my final thoughts on the game. Go ahead. That's what I think it's gonna be, but I guess it's probably not.
well, that would certainly be big, but it also doesn't feel like that much was changed post-Ruin and Help Wanted 2 from what we did at the end of last year. So I didn't really want to be redundant either. You can see the struggle that I was facing, right? This episode, it's a big deal to me. It is literally
Big deal to
the
me.
end of my legacy with FNAF. And you see,
That's crazy.
when it hit me. Legacy. Typically, FNAF theories are born out of the small details, but what if I took a step back and looked at the big picture? What if instead of counting animatronic toes or dead kids, I took a meta approach and just looked at the entire legacy of FNAF? I'm sure we're all familiar with the butterfly effect, right? The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings could cause the smallest of changes in the air, which could potentially lead to a tornado forming. Well, the term actually comes from the research of meteorologist Edward Lorenz, who, back in 1963, decided to round some numbers in his data. He condensed one variable from 0.506127 to just 0.506. And yet, that tiny change right there completely threw off his computer's weather models.
It's not a game theory without random science facts from 200 years ago. If it doesn't have that, it's not a game theory.
Transforming sunny skies into violent storms, hence the
Dang.
whole tornado thing. This realization that small changes in data could yield such tremendously different results ultimately threw off science's entire understanding of nature. Before Lorenz, people thought that the universe could ultimately be predicted. Sir Isaac Newton back in 1687 famously
Isaac Newton,
believed in the
what's good?
clockwork universe, the idea that the parts of the universe worked like a machine, and that eventually, if you understood how the parts worked, you could predict practically anything. French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace actually said basically the same thing. Eventually,
This is a history lesson.
place where nothing would be uncertain. And yet Lorenz showed us that one small change, one minor mistake or estimate or imprecise measurement in a complex system could have a domino effect at a massive scale, resulting in changes that you would never see coming. For example, in 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered that there was mold in
More
his Petri
history.
dish, but rather than just throwing it away
More
or cleaning
history.
it up, he decided to study it, which then led to the discovery of penicillin, a life
So much history.
throwing it away or cleaning it up, he decided to study it, which then led to the discovery of penicillin, a life-saving antibiotic that could be used to treat meningitis, pneumonia, gonorrhea, syphilis, blood poisoning, and many others. Or if you want another example, you have the explosion of hip-hop music largely owing its origins to a random lightning strike in New York City. In
What?
1977, a bolt of lightning put the city of
Is this
New York
FNAF?
through a 25-hour blackout. So what do you do for all that time that you're stuck in the dark? You loot and pillage, baby! New Yorkers started to ransack storefronts, including music shops full of instruments and supplies.
Damn.
Suddenly, expensive DJ equipment was in the hands of young aspiring musicians eager to experiment with hip-hop, which was a new genre of music just hitting the local scene. And thus, hip-hop
Crazy.
was truly able to thrive. History is full of
Wild.
these sorts of stories, from the foundations of medicine and music to even stuff as extreme as the origins of both World War I and II. Bring all
God!
this serious stuff up in relation to spooky bear games?
For
Because
real?
FNAF is one of those rounded variables. One decision by Scott Cawthon reshaped gaming and YouTube and the entire entertainment world. as
Okay,
we
you know
know
what?
it.
Yeah,
And
that's true, that's
not
true,
an
that's true.
Exaggeration for effect. One man's decision to not give up, to try again in the face of rejection and adversity, literally shifted billions of dollars of the economy and affected hundreds of millions of lives in ways that are incalculable. And that
You know, some would say that he's over exaggerating it, but like first, like the biggest thing, like YouTube, okay, it absolutely stormed YouTube, but also the FNAF movie, because I actually experienced the FNAF movie blowing up. I've had multiple like teachers and kids at school talk about the FNAF movie, just like a sentence like, "Oh yeah, I watched that Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It was all right," and just seeing that, it's like, damn, like it makes me happy. So like, he's not exaggerating. Scott really made a $300 million movie that was the top 4 best-selling movie of 2023, and that I'm proud of it.
That is what I wanted to call attention to in my final FNAF theory. FNAF shows us that by not giving up, one person can have a profound effect on the course of history itself.
So it's a meta
I feel like
theory.
the origin story of FNAF's been talked about to death, but just to set the stage here, despite hitting it big with FNAF in 2014, its creator Scott Cawthon had been making games at that point for 20 years, since
It's a long time,
1994.
bro.
And
It's a
yet,
long
even
time.
in those earliest days, you can tell that Scott had a fascination with creepy robots, working their designs into projects like the sci-fi Ifer Moon and the religious Pilgrim's Progress. Even this incredibly rudimentary RPG Legacy of Flan has a final boss
What is
that
Legacy
has
of
what looks to be the
Flan?
first appearance of what would eventually evolve into the Mangle. But despite producing a lot of games, none really ever caught the public's eye. And then came Chipper and Sons Lumber Company, where
The
initial
game.
reviews, what few there were rough. And as the story goes, it was the reaction to James Stephanie Sterling that would change the course of Cawthon's career forever. Thank God for her.
It's just all over the place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children. I am.
Okay. I played this game, and look, I love Scott. Scott, awesome dude. Applaud him for making the movie and the game series awesome. But this game is so unbelievably bad. I'm sorry. I could not beat this game. It is just grinding. I know it's supposed to be a mobile game, and mobile games are grinding. But, like, this is the most grindy game I've probably ever played. It just gets really boring and repetitive. I would literally make, like, 2-hour videos of just grinding. And I'd just be stuck. I didn't beat the game. I'll probably beat it at some point just to say I beat Chipper and Sons. But it's not a good game. I'm sorry.
Imagine the phrase "kill me" is stated over and over again in the world of Chipper and Sons. Oh, they're robot beavers. That's not good. I think he's the only living thing in this world.
This repeated criticism, plus the lack of financial stability, brought Scott down to his lowest. Ready to quit games, he decided to try one final time and lean into the thing that had been leveled at him time and time again, the creepy robotic animations. And thus, Five Nights at Freddy's was born. And that right there, that's gonna act as our nexus point. The one flap of a butterfly wing. The decision to make a final game instead of just giving up. Now, let's see how it all maps out from there. Let's start with just the obvious downstream effects of this. That one game, over the course of the last decade, has spun off into 12, which honestly, I've never
Crazy.
truly sat down and processed. But believe it or not, there are 12 of these things,
That's crazy to think about.
depending on how you count them. The entire franchise has sold 9.9 million copies on Steam alone, which in total has an estimated revenue of $94 million. And that's not even including the console and mobile ports or the number of microtransactions for FNAF AR, which is over $40 million.
Oh, 40 million downloads. I did not know that. And how much? 94 million copies? No, 9.9 million copies throughout all the games. Crazy.
It's also worth pointing out that of the $94 million, $55 million of that was just from Steam sales of Security Breach, because that one was actually at full price as opposed to all the others, which were either free or a couple of bucks. And
Bro, Security Breach in total sold $50 million? Still, whoa! Ranking in the cash!
while the first 4 FNAF games were entirely a one-man job, the rest have included voice actors, composers, entirely separate game studios like Steel Wool and Illumix. Even to this day, we're seeing this continue with studios like Megacat.
Megacat looks
Been focused
good.
on releasing
They're looking
games
good.
on retro consoles, very niche market, but that made them perfect to create the retro-style pixelated FNAF game Into the Pit, releasing later this year. By pairing up
excited
with
for
these
that.
smaller companies that aren't insanely well known, Scott's not only been able to make bigger, better games, he's also been able to use his single game's success to put millions of eyeballs and millions of dollars into each of these companies. As a
Smart
result
man.
of their work
Smart
with
man.
FNAF, Illumix started working with Disney on features found throughout the parks. And if Steel Wool ever do release a game outside of FNAF in the future, you can bet that it's gonna have itself a fan base attached to it because people now know about them. And
Yeah.
they're gonna want to see what other work
Smart
they can
man.
do. So
Smart
that's on the game
business.
side, or at least it's on the official
Business.
game side. But stopping there would be overlooking the much bigger impact FNAF has had on the games that haven't even been released yet.
The rivalry.
The rivalry reignites with Mario versus Donkey Kong.
This one series inspired a whole new generation of game designers.
Fanverse.
Any game that's ever
Fan
come
game.
before. All of them cutting their teeth on a genre that exploded in the mid-2010s, the FNAF fan game. Five Nights at Treasure Island, Five Nights at Wario's, Pop Goes, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, Afton Built, The Glitched Attraction, Bloody Nights Jr.,
Afton Built, bro.
Freddy's.
Thanks.
I still want to play Day Shift at Freddy's, bro. I never played the series. I need to play it.
Some of these were just for the memes, others were more
Bruh.
serious attempts at making games inspired by FNAF.
I like that game. That game's
The
underrated.
world that Scott had created and
Hydro Tycoon. They both. Fazbear Tycoon got canceled, and I'm sad because it's looking so dope.
And many of them were just taking the world that Scott had created and broadening it outward into the game that they wanted to see made. If you go onto Game Jolt, you'll find thousands of fan games, and I do mean thousands. If you search just for FNAF and select games, you're presented with 36 games per page and 277 pages available. That is 9,900 games that are tagged using FNAF. And if you're sitting there thinking,
my
hold on, the math there doesn't add up, you're right, good noticing. That's because I had to remove 11 of Scott's own games that were posted on that list. Though, I'm pretty sure that there are some out there who'd like to pretend that FNAF World was a fan game. Each and every one of those 10,000 fan games represents a budding game designer, sometimes several. And while yeah, many of those creators are likely never going to pursue game design full time, there are some who will, either independently or as part of a bigger studio.
Like, I think everyone in the fan verse
shot at creating their own mega franchise, their shot to transform the industry. And already you can see that some of these devs are finding success, to the point where many of them have created multiple different games at this point, turning their fan projects into full-on franchises of their own. And all of this is without even mentioning the Fanverse initiative, where Scott invested money and resources into some of the most promising projects to help those fledgling
Papa's Evergreen looks so dope.
The success of that one is up for debate for various reasons, but the point ultimately stands. Five Nights at Freddy's has been directly and indirectly involved in the rise of a new generation of game developers. Developers that, just now, 10 years later, we're only starting to see get to
I've Been Built isn't a Fanverse game! Sorry, I just had to get it out. Often Built is pretty alright. I'm done.
They're really influencing the wider gaming landscape. Except gaming, it's already seen a massive shift coming off the heels of FNAF. Prior to FNAF's release, if you took a look at any top 10 list about horror games, it would have been filled with games like Outlast, PT, Amnesia. Games that leaned hard into psychological horror and sometimes graphic gore. FNAF, though, was different. While other horror games used the classic horror trope of not knowing what the monster looked like, relying on the audience's mind to fill in the blanks of what might be lurking in the shadows, FNAF put the monsters front and center, allowing them to be the star of the show like we see in movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. This allowed FNAF games to be much more thumbnail friendly and easier compared to the spooky dark hallways or overcomplicated monster designs that dominated the horror space in the past. Mix in the more family-friendly scares of Freddy and the gang, and you've got yourself a brand new subgenre of content, mascot horror, as dubbed by YouTuber John Wolf. This genre
John Wolf changed it, bro.
And with brightly colored killers brought to life through some weird experiment or trauma. Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime, Rainbow Friends, My Friendly Neighborhood, Hello Neighbor, Baldi's Basics, Choo Choo Charles, Amanda the Adventure, and of course, Carton of Bandit. That's not even dipping into the hundreds of lesser-known titles like Joyville. It was FNAF who paved the way for all of these games.
I think that FNAF was the true origin. I think the origin of the current mascot horror games that come out was Bendy and the Ink Machine. Bendy created the formula.
It was FNAF who paved the way for all of these games. Poppy sold 2 million copies in 2 years.
Really? 2 million?
Made over $30 million just off of its 2 major installments. Hello Neighbor is a thing that continues to exist. And while people complain about oversaturation in the market at this point, there is no denying that the formulas work extremely well for the better part of the last 10 years.
They do.
Maybe you're sick of games. You want to read a book? Well, I hope you're excited to read the 7 Hello Neighbor books, 5 Bendy books, or the Poppy Playtime Employee Handbook that's coming out later this year.
I forgot, yeah, in May. I might get that. I played chapter 3. It was legitimately amazing. I'm a fan of Poppy now. I might get that book.
Mascot horror franchises now also line the shelves of your local Barnes & Noble. Why? Because FNAF did it first.
FNAF!
Classic had done some video game book publishing in the past, mostly guidebooks and activity books, but after the success of the FNAF trilogy, they began to publish other video game books like Assassin's Creed Last Descendants, World of Warcraft Traveler. This led them to launch an entirely separate wing to their business, AFK, the video game-specific book department. It's these guys who are publishing all the books that Tom is now gonna have to read. No, it's impossible to know for certain that...
Imagine when he had to record that. Matt was like, okay, Tom, record a groan of an impression of you reading all the Hello Neighbor books.
Now, it's impossible to know for certain that FNAF was the reason for all this, but given it was often shown
Probably
at the
was.
top of articles for this new publishing arm at launch and has sold 9 million books to date, with an average book price being about $10, that is $90 million infused into the historically struggling print publishing business. It's no wonder the first 6 rows of their website are dedicated to FNAF. But without AFK, it's easy to imagine a world where these other mascot horror games didn't get that chance, and all those writers who've now been able to make a living off of these franchises wouldn't be recognized like they are. I mean,
For real though, FNAF, especially like we got the announcement of the Poppy Playtime movie a couple years ago, announcement of the Bendy movie recently, all because FNAF. It was gathering so much hype, and especially after the movie released, like immediately saw that like, oh my god, I need to do this, and so they did it, and then they announced it after the huge success of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Wagner, who wrote the vast majority of Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories, she's now getting DM'd by fans asking for lore clarifications.
Really?
Something I'm sure she never anticipated while working on her past writing projects,
That's
like
funny.
her dog how-to book, Dog Parenting, or Ultimate Beauty, the story of a big girl with big dreams.
She wrote Sea Bonnies?
Her words, not mine. The same thing is now happening with another struggling industry, movies. After spending 8 years in production hell, losing directors, struggling with studios, and trying to nail down a script,
That's
Blumhouse
auto
eventually
happen.
took the chance on FNAF, making the movie on a $20 million budget and earning back nearly $300 million. If you don't think Hollywood has taken strong notice of that when they are struggling to get butts in seats, you are wrong. You think it's a coincidence that 2 months after FNAF's release, Bendy announced his...
That's exactly what I just said, you know.
The Playtime movie was already in the works with Studio 71.
Guess what I just
Almost
said?
guarantee conversations with studios around it have shifted in the aftermath of FNAF. And who knows what other mascot horror games might end up with movies down the line.
I cannot wait to see the Skibidi Toilet movie, bro. I'm excited to see the Skibidi Toilet movie get announced. I've never watched Skibidi Toilet, and I won't unless that movie gets announced. I will watch that movie.
Indie game movies greenlit, it's also reshaping film studio priorities. As they continue to fumble around in the dark, struggling to find ways to compete with online content, I've literally had conversations with people in the film space about how they're trying to tap into that FNAF audience,
Really?
that online community. The success of this one
MatPat,
film
that's
will
crazy,
be
bro.
shaping the types of movies that get made and how they look moving forward. I guarantee it. But while movie releases mean big bucks for big studios, the economic ramifications go way beyond just extra cash in the pocket.
video
of Jason
game
Blum.
Adaptations are going huge right now.
The FNAF movie was shot in New Orleans, which, since Hurricane Katrina, has been an economically depressed part of the country. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but from speaking to local actors and business owners while I was down there filming last year, I learned that New Orleans actually has a long history in film production. When the state
Really?
government of Louisiana first introduced tax breaks for film productions back in 2002, over 1,000 projects happened down there in the span of 7 years. Those productions created jobs, hired locals, and brought millions of dollars back into the city. However,
Nice.
pre-COVID, those incentives were rolled back, and productions
Okay.
have now started to move to other places like
I see.
Georgia. That's why so many of the local actors and
Yeah,
business owners
Sparkies!
down there were eager to see the FNAF
Wait, this is a behind the scenes shot of Sparky's.
Georgia.
I never saw it like this. It's literally just out in the open. It's just there. Sparky's. It's literally just out in the open with the most regular restaurant. That's funny.
Actors and business owners I spoke with while down there were eager to see the FNAF movie in town. By shooting in New Orleans, a huge chunk of that $20 million budget was going to accommodations, drivers, caterers, local talent, location rentals, equipment, and other general resources that help local businesses thrive, and maybe start a domino effect to get other movies back in the region. Regardless of all of that, the point is that this one decision to try one final game, it's grown
One
beyond
game.
itself. It's no longer about just making its own franchise full of games. It's spread to all corners of the media industry and to so many other
Everything.
IPs and creators, spawning a wave of new franchises and giving life to so many careers that
Only thing it's
otherwise
missing
might
is a
not have
TV
had
show.
chance. But speaking of careers, there's one
Or
final
web
area
series.
that's also needed to be addressed. An area that has been so affected by
YouTube.
FNAF, it's crazy to not talk about. And that, of course, is here on YouTube. FNAF
Yes.
has a lot of numbers for a
I'm
lot
literally here because of
its
FNAF,
effect
bro.
on The YouTube landscape is still visible to this day, and in a much more obvious way. When FNAF first launched, it was just one of many games that YouTube
You know, funny. Hold up. Hold on.
were started.
I watched that theory just a few days ago. I went back to watch like the first few FNAF theories by Game Theory because they were legitimately good theories and they are sort of nostalgic for me. Just a little bit though, not too much. But I don't know. It's just nice to go back to those old theories. So the fact that he's showing it here, it's funny because I was actually laughing at that intro. Like, I am so scared right now.
I am so scared right know. When FNAF first launched, it was just one of many games that YouTubers started playing because spooky games got big views. This game gave rise to some of the biggest names on the platform. Names that are still going strong today. Let's players like CoryX Kenshin and Markiplier, who'd been on YouTube for a couple of years, but saw their careers accelerate in parallel alongside the FNAF releases. You also had a massive surge in nerdcore musical artists, like the Living Tombstone, whose FNAF song was at 1 million views in a couple of weeks, whereas most other songs...
1 million views in a couple of weeks? I didn't think it was that fast, to be honest.
Artists like the Living Tombstone, whose FNAF song was at 1 million views in a couple of weeks, whereas most other songs they would release would have a few 100,000 views months after release. And machinima creators started using FNAF models and characters to tell their own unique stories long before the FNAF movie ever hit theaters, racking up literally billions of views. But what truly set FNAF apart were obviously the hidden details cluing fans into the bigger story.
That's the only reason it exists,
more than
bro.
anything else ignited the internet's passion like never before.
Look, I make theories for a reason. I gotta say that.
Given rise to the theorist community. People like Dawko, Rezbowski, 8-Bit Ryan, Rytoast, ID's Fantasy, Hyperdroid, John FNAF, and of course, us, going through this game piece by
me.
And of course, us, going through this game piece by piece in order to find the hidden story within it. Now, contrary to popular belief, FNAF wasn't the first thing that actually had us creating lore theories. That was always just part of the channel's DNA. But before FNAF, we were coming up with lore theories for franchises where the story was basically well known. Whether or not Majora's Mask is an allegory for grieving, you get the story of a moon crashing down. Regardless of whether Peach is Rosalina's mom, you get the basic premise of Mario Galaxy.
You do.
Humans certainly might be Pokemon. That's not really affecting anyone's journey to become a league champ. But FNAF was different. It showed that games could be built off of withholding the lore and forcing the fan base to solve it.
For real, that's why it's so big.
Never confirming anything, Scott allowed YouTubers, Redditors, and just general fans to continually assess and reassess the lore, find new directions, new hot takes. And that means that we're still theorizing about it to this very day. Can it be frustrating? Absolutely. Heck, maybe now that I'm retired,
it's actually so frustrating sometimes.
Scott down and get some answers out of him. But it's also
that's been a meme for like 5 years.
Of this theory-based model on YouTube has carried over into the mainstream, where now almost every game and movie release is designed with theory crafting in mind. While it's impossible to calculate the full scope of FNAF on YouTube, I was able to find that there are 106 videos with more than 10 million views each. Together, they total roughly 5.4 billion views on just their very own. If we assume that they're getting the standard gaming CPM on YouTube, which is about $4.55, that then's a total earning across all of those videos of $24,570,000 in ad revenue. Markiplier's literally gone on record to say that the house that he lives in is the house that FNAF paid for. And he's joked on this Distractable podcast about how
William Afton paid for his house, bro. 120 million views. Like, that's a lot.
About how lucrative FNAF's been for him.
Let's go into a fan favorite here. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Boo. So there's two ways I could look at it.
I saw this.
Right? I could look at it from the game purely by itself, or I could look at it at the dividends it is paid out for me specifically.
And that's put him in a position to pursue bigger and loftier projects like the With Markiplier series.
Bro,
and now,
Iron Lung.
One half
actually
of
looks dope.
Tombstone, Sam Haft, is now writing songs for internet sensations like Has Been Hotel. YouTubers like FNAF and Rytoast, they've been able to go full-time with YouTube, all thanks to FNAF. And heck, look at us. Because of FNAF, we've thrived. We've been able to grow our team, give jobs to dozens of people, and perhaps best of all, we've carved out our own platform that allows us to turn the spotlight onto a next generation of creators. To make us tastemakers in the space that are able to pay it forward. To make you aware of projects that you should be playing and
FNAF honestly changed YouTube.
To the Man in the Suit, to Shipwrecked 64, Welcome Home, Mandela Catalog, Walton Files. The list goes on and on and on. In short, FNAF created an ecosystem where new IPs can thrive. A virtuous cycle that benefited itself, to be sure, but also had a halo effect on dozens of other franchises looking to get attention. And all of this is without even mentioning other trickle-down effects. Our large platform allowed us to run charity events like St. Jude.
Dawko just did one.
To help doctors and hospitals working on treatments for childhood cancer, where of course, Scott himself was a sizable and direct contributor.
100K.
There were also dozens of other charity events coming from creators like Dawko, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Rytoast, John FNAF. Not only have these events been able to raise tens of millions of dollars for various organizations looking to do good work in the world, hopefully those events in turn inspired others, you out in the audience or other creators, to adopt a spirit of generosity and giving in their own lives. And again, it all comes down to this one decision. One guy who in the face of adversity and criticism chose not to give up. That is the millions of people and billions of dollars affected.
It's such a crazy story.
Spooky Bear game. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for all of that. And while all of this is cool and impressive and inspirational, it's also overwhelming, right? You look at the impact that one decision like this can have and you feel like you can never live up. I know that's how I feel sometimes. But remember, it's all about small decisions making a a domino effect. Just being kind to someone else, saying something nice, holding a door, listening to someone's problems, making them laugh. All of those are seemingly small things that can make a massive difference in the way someone's day is going. And that to me has always been the power of these channels. They're a place to learn a little something, a place to brighten your day in some small way, which then you can pay forward to other people in your life. And that positivity, it spreads. It spreads.
I love Theorist channels, bro. They're so
change. That to me, honestly,
they're so good.
the hardest thing about leaving these channels.
Especially like Game Theory and Field Theory, W Theory channels.
But you know what? I'm not done yet. I'll see you one last time next week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, as I celebrate with you one final time as a Theorist community. Until then, as always, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
God, why you get me so sad, MatPat? Oh! I like that theory. I liked it. It made me satisfied my needs. That's the final FNAF theory by MatPat, as far as I'm concerned, and it paid off. It's not a bunch of lore, which is what he's been doing for the past 10 years, but it's also not another science theory. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's something that is probably more important. He analyzed the impact that like Five Nights at Freddy's has made in lives, literal lives, and how much money he's made. I didn't know. To be honest, I didn't know that Security Breach made over $50 million. Like, that honestly got me by shock. And also, it sort of did change the movie industry. Like, it was Mario. Mario getting $1 billion. Like, that's crazy. We gotta get more video game stuff. And then FNAF released not long after. Like, okay, yeah, we need to do this. I don't know. It makes me happy. MatPat is retiring and he's gonna have a better time off of YouTube, I hope. But also, it's gonna suck not hearing him scream a game theory and like him yapping about how many toes Nightmare Freddy has, you know, like the classic joke. He's always been like one of the staples, like one of like the OG FNAF staples. But also, he has like impacted YouTube in such a way because of Five Nights at Freddy's. I wasn't here 10 years ago. I could not tell you how many subscribers MatPat had 10 years ago, but I can guarantee you that like just Five Nights at Freddy's gave him millions, and I'm happy for him. I don't want to just blab on for too long, so I'm gonna end it there. This is a great theory. It will be linked in the description to watch, and I'll continue to watch Game Theory because it's not like the channel's over. It's just gonna feel different. And the announcement, when I saw it, I was like, what? It does suck, but also I have to accept it. Also, like right now, this is number 2 on trending. Check this out. That's where I'm gonna end it. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Dislike the video as much as humanly possible, and I will see you in the next one. Toodaloo.